If you had told me 2 years ago that I'd end up standing in the back of my ex-boyfriend's wedding, holding the receipts for his affair in my hand, I would have laughed and called you crazy. Back then, I honestly thought he was my forever. Let's call him Daniel. We met in this stupidly cute way. I was working part-time at a little coffee shop while finishing my degree. Walked in wearing a suit that clearly cost more than my entire monthly rent, talking on his phone about some client deliverables, like he was the main character in some corporate drama. He ordered a black coffee, flashed me this charming, crooked smile, and made some joke about needing rocket fuel to get through his meetings. I rolled my eyes and said something like, you could just sleep like a normal person. He laughed, and it wasn't that creepy, flirty laugh some guys have. It was warm, easy. He came back the next day, and the day after that. Pretty soon, he learned my schedule by accident and started timing his coffee runs for when I was working. He'd stay a little longer each day, asking about my classes, teasing me about my messy notebook, telling me about his job in marketing. One day, he forgot his laptop charger, came back breathless, and said, "If I lose this PowerPoint, I'm actually going to cry." I slid it across the counter, and he just blurted, "Okay, I can't keep pretending I'm here for the coffee. Can I take you out to dinner?" I said yes. And honestly, our first date was perfect. He picked this cozy, dimly lit Italian place with candles on the tables and way too loud jazz. He asked real questions, not just small talk. He remembered I had a big exam that week and asked how it went. He didn't stare at his phone once. I went home that night with this warm, buzzing feeling in my chest like, wow, this might actually be something. Over the next few months, it turned into everything. He was the good morning text guy, the I brought you coffee guy, the I listened to your rant about your professor guy. He remembered my mom's birthday before I did. He offered to help me with my resume. He met my friends and charmed the hell out of all of them. My best friend, Lena, pulled me aside one night after he'd left and said, "If you don't marry this man, I will." We laughed. But the thing is, back then, I could actually see it. Marriage, a future, kids maybe. A little house with a backyard and way too many string lights. He talked about the future constantly. Stuff like, when you graduate, we'll take a trip to Europe. Or when we get our own place, we're getting a ridiculous couch, the kind you disappear into. He said when, not if. And that when burrowed itself into my heart. A year into our relationship, he asked me to move in with him. I was nervous, but excited. His apartment was nice, too nice for a guy his age, honestly. Big windows, stainless steel everything. Plants that I'm 99% sure he bought the day before I moved in, so he looked more put together. We spent that first night on the floor, eating Chinese food out of the containers, watching some dumb movie we weren't even paying attention to. I remember looking at him, his hair all messy, soy sauce on his chin, and thinking, this is it. This is my person. For a while, it really felt like I was right. We had our routines. Sunday mornings were for pancakes and cleaning with loud music. Wednesday nights were for takeout and trashy reality TV. He'd kiss me on the forehead when he left for work and text me little updates during the day. My life felt almost perfect. But looking back now, I can see the tiny cracks that were already there. They just didn't look like cracks at the time. They looked like stress, like being busy, like work stuff. It started with his schedule. Daniel had always worked a lot. He was one of those I'm building something big guys. But about a year and a half in, it ramped up even more. Suddenly, there were late nights at the office, client dinners, last-minute meetings, nights where he'd come home at midnight, smelling like expensive cologne and hotel bar air. At first, I believed every word. Of course I did. He'd always been so solid with me, If he said he had a presentation, I assumed he was sweating in some conference room, not whatever else he was actually doing. But then little things started to slip. He used to leave his phone lying around all the time. On the kitchen counter, on the coffee table, face up, buzzing with work notifications. Suddenly, it was always in his pocket or flipped face down. He started taking it with him into the bathroom. He'd turn the screen away from me when he typed. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid. I even scolded myself. Like, come on, you're not that girl, you trust him. But the thing about your gut is, it doesn't care what you call yourself. It just keeps whispering. One night, he came home later than usual. I was already in bed, pretending to sleep. I heard the door open softly. His keys hit the bowl, the rustle of his jacket. Then I heard him talking in this low, soft voice. I held my breath. He was in the hallway, not quite in the bedroom, and I could hear just enough. I'm home now, yeah, I know, tonight was, yeah. I had a great time too, I'll call you tomorrow. My chest clenched. I'm not an idiot. That wasn't his mom. That was Craig from accounting. The next morning, I asked, casually, hey, who were you on the phone with last night? He didn't even flinch, just Mark. We were going over some figures. Sorry if I woke you. I stared at him for a second too long. He noticed. His eyes narrowed just a tiny bit. And that's when the vibe changed. He got defensive, more distant, easily annoyed. If I asked when he'd be home, he'd say something like, I don't know, it depends. Can you not interrogate me? If I tried to talk about us, he'd suddenly be too tired or stressed from work. The late nights multiplied. So did my unease. One Friday, he texted that he was stuck at a client dinner and would be home late. I was on the couch, alone, watching some dumb cooking show when Lena texted me a photo. It was taken at this new rooftop bar downtown. There was a group of people in the background, and there he was, Daniel, in his favorite navy blazer, standing way too close to a woman in a red dress, his hand on the small of her back, her head tilted toward him, laughing. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might actually throw up. I stared at that photo for a good minute, every part of me trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was a work event. Maybe that's how they stand. Maybe the angle is weird. Maybe. Then I zoomed in. His hand wasn't just casually there. His fingers were pressed into her waist, like he was holding on. Her hand was on his chest. I felt this cold wash over me. Not just anger, not just jealousy. It was like my body finally caught up to what my brain had been trying not to see. I didn't say anything that night. He came home smelling like whiskey and some floral perfume that wasn't mine. He kissed my forehead and said, hey, sorry, long night. I just pulled the blanket up and said I was tired. That was the night everything changed. Not for him, for me. I went from hoping I was wrong to quietly watching. Over the next few weeks, I paid attention. When he showered, he'd take his phone into the bathroom and set it on the counter. One time, he forgot to lock it, and the screen lit up with a notification. Can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? M. My heart hammered so loud I swear I could hear it. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. I just stared at the name. M. A fresh, hot rage rose up in me. At night, while he slept, I lay awake next to him, staring at the ceiling, replaying our whole relationship in my mind like some kind of twisted highlight reel. The first date, moving in, all the when we plans, and now this. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be the girl who just screams and throws his clothes on the lawn. No, he wasn't just cheating on me. He was stealing my time, my trust, my future. I wanted him to feel something close to what he'd made me feel. That deep, ugly humiliation. That shock. That helplessness. So instead of confronting him right away, I started collecting. Whenever he left his phone unattended and unlocked for even a few seconds, I took quick photos with mine. Texts with M, selfies she'd sent. Little "miss you already" messages. Hotel details. Screenshots of calendar. Invites labeled with boring, fake names like Q3 review that were definitely not Q3 anything. I found out her actual name through one of their drunk texts, Melissa. She worked in the same building. They'd hit it off over drinks with the team. I found out they'd been seeing each other for months. Months. While he was curling up behind me at night, while he was telling me he loved me, while we were picking out furniture together. He was also taking this woman out to nice dinners and hotel rooms and telling her things like, "You're my peace." I stopped sleeping properly. Stopped eating right. I'd smile at him, go to work, cry in the bathroom, come home, and pretend nothing was wrong. Because I needed time. I needed the right angle. The final straw came in the form of a ring. One afternoon, I was cleaning the bedroom while he was at work. I opened his nightstand drawer to put something away and saw a small velvet box pushed to the back. My heart jumped. For half a second I thought, is he? But then reality slapped me. He'd been cheating for months. That ring wasn't for me. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a delicate diamond ring. Not my style at all. Too dainty, too princessy, but pretty. My eyes burned. I looked around our room at the pictures of us on the walls, the books we shared, the stupid plant we kept killing and reviving, and I realized I was already gone in his head. He was just too much of a coward to say it. I closed the box, put it back exactly where I found it, and sat down on the edge of the bed. The world felt like it tilted. Under the ache, there was this strange, cold clarity. He was going to propose to her soon, and he wasn't even going to give me the decency of a breakup first. That was when the idea hit me. I didn't know it then, but that moment, me sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the drawer, was the night that changed everything. A few weeks later, Daniel came home with this weird mix of guilt and excitement in his eyes. He sat me down on the couch, took a deep breath, and said, "We need to talk." Classic. He launched into this whole monologue about how he loves me, but he's not in love with me, how he needs to figure himself out, how work has changed him, how I deserve someone who can give me 100%. I listened quietly. I didn't cry. I just watched him. Every word was like a rerun of some breakup script he'd rehearsed in the mirror. At the end, he tried to do this soft, broken voice. "I hope someday you can forgive me." I tilted my head and asked calmly, "Is this about Melissa?" The color drained from his face. He stuttered, "Who?" I smiled. "That was a nice ring you got her, by the way, very delicate." His mouth opened and closed like a fish. He looked like he'd been smacked. Finally, he muttered something about things just happening and not wanting to hurt me. He didn't deny it. Not really. He just wrapped it in excuses. I stood up, walked to the bedroom, grabbed a small bag I'd already packed my essentials, a few clothes, and came back out. He watched me with wide eyes. "You don't have to go right now," he said. His voice cracked a little. "I can stay at a friend's place for a while. We can figure this out." I shook my head. "No, Daniel, you already made your choice. I'm just finally catching up." I walked out without slamming the door. No screaming. No dramatic tears. He didn't deserve that show. For a few months, I went no contact. Moved in with Lena for a bit, picked up extra shifts, slowly started rebuilding a life that wasn't orbiting around him. He sent a few texts. Long, rambling apologies. I ignored them. Then, almost a year later, Lena called me while I was at work. "Are you sitting down?" she asked. My stomach dropped. "What? You're gonna want to see this." She sent me a link. It was a wedding website. There they were, Daniel and Melissa, smiling in matching beige sweaters, standing in some stupid golden hour field. "Join us as we celebrate our love," the header said. I scrolled through the page, my jaw clenched. The venue was this beautiful, expensive-looking estate just outside the city. They had engagement photos, a cheesy "how we met" section, which was a full-on lie. By the way, a registry, the works. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me felt sick all over again. Another part of me felt weirdly calm. It was like all the shock and grief had burned off, and what was left was something sharper. He actually did it, I said to Lena. He cheated, left, and now he's marrying her like nothing happened. Lena hesitated. Then she said, very slowly, "You know, weddings have microphones, right?" At first I laughed. "Yeah, right, I'm not that girl. I'm not crashing a wedding." But the thought dug into my brain and refused to leave. I tried to brush it off, but over the next few weeks, I kept imagining it. All the people he'd lied to. All the family and friends who thought he was this great guy. Melissa, blissfully unaware that the man she was about to marry had no problem lying to the person who trusted him most. The more I thought about it, the less it felt like drama, and the more it felt like honesty, like balance. I didn't want to ruin a wedding just to be petty. But did I think Melissa deserved to know who she was marrying? Absolutely. So I started planning. First, I printed everything. Screenshots of his texts to me while he was already seeing her. Evidence that our relationship overlapped with their early dating. Photos from our anniversaries with dates clearly visible, lined up against messages to her saying, "I've never felt this way about anyone before." I put them in a neat little folder. Timeline. Proof. No fluff. Next, I talked to someone I trusted, Lena's older cousin, who happened to be a paralegal. I laid everything out. Not in a dramatic way, just the facts. I asked one question. If I show the bride this privately, am I crossing a line legally? She told me I was fine as long as I wasn't lying, defaming him, or threatening anyone. Truth is not illegal, especially if the person I'm telling is directly impacted. That was all I needed. The week before the wedding, I almost backed out. I had the folder ready. The dress picked out, something simple, not white, not flashy. Lena kept saying, "You don't have to do this. You owe him nothing." And that was exactly it. I didn't owe him anything. But did I owe her the truth? Maybe I did. Or maybe I just couldn't live with myself knowing I stayed silent while he played the victim and the hero in his own story. The day of the wedding, my hands were shaking as I got ready. I kept thinking, what if this is too much? What if she hates me? What if everyone turns on me? But under the fear was this strange sense of power. He had taken every choice away from me when he cheated behind my back and quietly moved on. This was me taking control of my own story again. Lena drove us to the venue. The estate was even more gorgeous in real life. White stone, big arched windows, manicured gardens, a gazebo set up with flowers. People were already milling around in pastel dresses and suits. We weren't on the guest list, obviously, but big weddings are chaotic, blended in pretty easily. Just another pair of semi-dressed up women walking in confidently like we belonged. My heart pounded in my ears. I clutched the folder so hard my knuckles turned white. We slipped into the back of the ceremony area as people took their seats. The string quartet was playing some soft, romantic song. The officiant was shuffling papers. The groom, Daniel, was standing at the front, looking smug and nervous in a light gray suit. I hadn't seen him in person in almost a year. It was jarring. He looked the same and completely different all at once. Older, sharper around the edges. When he saw the first bridesmaid walk down the aisle, his whole face softened, like he was really about to step into some fairy tale. I almost laughed. Then I saw her, Melissa. She looked beautiful, I'm not gonna lie. Classic white dress, veil, the whole thing. She was glowing that naive, hopeful glow. My throat tightened. As she walked closer, I realized something. She wasn't my enemy. we were both just women who had believed the same lie at different times. The ceremony started. The officiant welcomed everyone, made a joke, said some generic words about love and partnership. I barely heard any of it. My blood was rushing too loud. Then came the vows. Daniel went first. He pulled out a folded piece of paper and started reading about how he'd never known real love until he met her, how she made him want to be a better man, how he was so grateful for her patience and trust. I let out a short, bitter laugh before I could stop myself. A couple of people in the back turned to look at me. Lena squeezed my arm. Melissa's vows were sweet. She talked about how he supported her dreams, how he made her laugh, how she knew he would always be honest with her. That was it. I felt something snap. When the officiant said, "If anyone knows of any reason these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace," the air went still. People always think that line is just for movies. Most of the time, it slides right by and no one says a word. Not this time. I stepped out from the back row, my heels clicking on the stone. My voice sounded steady when I spoke, even though my heart was trying to beat out of my chest. "I have a reason." Everything froze. The music stopped. Heads turned. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Daniel's face went completely blank. For a second, I thought he was going to faint. Melissa frowned, her grip tightening on his hand. The officiant blinked, clearly not prepared for this actually happening. "Miss, please, this is," he started. I held up the folder. "I'll be quick, I promise." I walked down the aisle slowly. I could feel every set of eyes on me. Lena stayed in the back, just out of sight. This was my move to make. When I reached the front, I stopped a few feet away. Up close, I could see the recognition slam into Daniel's face. His jaw clenched. His eyes went wide. Whispered, "Oh my God," under his breath. Melissa looked between us, confused. "Daniel, who is this?" I met her eyes. "I'm his ex-girlfriend," I said calmly. "We lived together for 2 years. And while he was telling me I was his future, he was already seeing you." The silence that followed was heavy. You could almost taste it. Someone in the crowd gasped. Another whispered, "No way." I heard a chair squeak as someone shifted to get a better view. Daniel stepped forward, his face flushing red. "Okay, that's enough," he snapped. "You need to leave. This is not the time or place for your drama." I cocked my head. "Actually, it's the perfect place, since you're up here talking about honesty and trust." I opened the folder and pulled out the first page, a printed screenshot of a text from him to me, dated just a few days before one of their early official dates. It said, "Sorry, babe, working late tonight. Let's do a late dinner tomorrow. Love you." Right next to it, I held up another screenshot. Same date, minutes apart. This one to Melissa. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I'll say I'm working late. You're worth every lie." A low murmur exploded through the crowd. I handed the papers to Melissa. Her hand trembled as she took them. Her eyes darted back and forth over the text, her face draining of color. "I have more," I said quietly. Hotel confirmations, overlapping dates, months of lies. All while he was telling me he loved me and planning a life with me. "I thought you deserved to know before you married him." Daniel lunged forward, trying to grab the papers. "Stop it," he hissed. "This is insane. She's just bitter. She's twisting everything." I stepped back out of his reach. "Really? Then you won't mind if she reads all of it later." He turned to Melissa, his voice suddenly soft and desperate. "Mel, baby, listen to me. She's exaggerating. We were basically over. It was complicated. You know I love you, you know that." Her eyes were glassy as she stared at the evidence in her hands. She flipped through page after page, each one more proof. Photos of us at our 1-year anniversary, time-stamped while he was supposedly single. Messages about keeping things quiet for now. It was all there. You could see the exact moment her heart cracked, Her lips parted, her breathing hitched. She looked up at him, betrayal written all over her face. "How long?" she whispered. The whole crowd leaned in. Daniel swallowed hard. It wasn't like that. How long?" Her voice was louder this time, shaking. He looked around, seeing everyone staring. The mask slipped. You could see panic, then calculation. "Does it matter?" he snapped back. "We're here now. This is our day. Why are you letting my crazy ex ruin this?" There it was. The real him. Melissa blinked like he'd slapped her. "I didn't say anything. I didn't have to." She looked down at the papers again, then at me. I didn't know," she said quietly. There was this mixture of humiliation and gratitude in her eyes. Like she hated that this was happening, but somewhere deep down, she was glad it came out before it was too late. "I know," I said softly. "That's why I came." The officiant was shifting uncomfortably. Guests were whispering, some openly staring, some looking away like if they didn't see it. It wasn't real. One older woman in the front row, probably his mom, had her hand over her mouth, eyes wide with horror. Daniel looked at me with pure venom. "You're pathetic," he spat. "You couldn't move on, so you had to come here and blow up my life. You're insane." For the first time in a long time, I actually smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile you get when something finally lines up. "No," I said. "I did move on. I just figured your wife to be should have the same choice I never got, whether to stay with a liar or walk away." I turned to Melissa fully. "It's your decision. I'm not telling you what to do. I just couldn't stay silent." She stared at Daniel for what felt like forever. The music was off. The crowd was dead quiet. Even the birds seemed to shut up. Finally, she took a step back, away from him. "Is any of this a lie?" she asked, holding up the papers. He hesitated a fraction of a second too long. That was all it took. She let out a sharp, broken laugh. "Oh my God, I'm such an idiot," she whispered. Then, louder for everyone to hear, "You told me she was crazy, that she made things up, that she wouldn't let you go. All this time, I pitied you." He reached for her hand. "Mel, please. We can talk about this privately." She yanked her arm away. "No, we're not going to do what you always do. Not going to hide the truth and pretend it didn't happen." She looked around at the guests, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry, everyone. There isn't going to be a wedding today," gasps, chairs scraping. Someone swore under their breath. Daniel's face went from red to pale to this mottled, blotchy mix. He looked like the ground had opened beneath him. "Melissa, don't do this," he begged. "This is just, she's twisting the timeline, okay? It wasn't like that with her. I love you. You know that. I chose you." She shook her head slowly. "If this is how you treat someone you once loved, what happens when you get bored with me?" He had no answer. She turned to me again, voice shaking but strong. "Thank you," she said. "I hate that you had to do this, but thank you," I nodded. "You don't owe me anything. Just don't let him rewrite what he did." She took off her engagement ring. Her fingers trembled as she pressed it into his hand. "I deserve better than a man who builds his future on lies," she said. And she turned and walked down the aisle alone. Her friends and bridesmaids quickly followed her, some shooting him dirty looks, others comforting her as she broke down the moment she was out of the main view. The crowd erupted into low, buzzing conversation. People started standing, shifting, whispering. Some walked away, shaking their heads. Others just stared at him like he was something they'd scraped off their shoe. And Daniel, he just stood there, right where I'd left him, in front of the altar, in his perfect suit, holding a ring in one hand and damning proof of his own actions in the other. His face said everything. Shock, rage, fear, humiliation. He looked small. For the first time, he looked exactly as small as his choices. He turned to me, eyes blazing. "You ruined my life," he hissed. I tilted my head. "No, you ruined your own life." I just turned the lights on. With that, I closed the now empty folder, turned around, and walked back up the aisle. Same way I'd come in, but I wasn't shaking this time. As I passed the rows of chairs, I could hear snippets of conversation. "I can't believe it, poor girl, what a jerk." Lena met me at the back, eyes wide, a mix of pride and disbelief on her face. "You actually did it," she breathed. I let out a shaky laugh. "Yeah, I guess I did." We walked out into the sunlight, leaving the chaos behind. By the time we got to the car, my legs finally started to shake. Adrenaline crashed hard. I slumped into the passenger seat and burst into tears, not because I regretted it, but because everything I'd held inside for so long had finally spilled out in one brutal, necessary moment. In the weeks after the non-wedding, there was fallout. I heard through mutual acquaintances that the vendors were furious. His parents were embarrassed, and some of his friends were divided, half of them calling me crazy, the other half quietly saying, honestly, he had it coming. Alyssa blocked him on everything. She moved out of their shared apartment within a month. She even reached out to me once. She sent a short message. "I'm still really hurt and angry, but I'm also grateful. I hope you're okay. I don't want to be connected to him anymore, but thank you for not letting me walk into that blindly." I sat with that message for a long time. Then I answered, "You don't owe me anything. I hope you find someone who deserves you." We never spoke again, and that was fine. We weren't meant to be friends. We were just two women who happened to share the same storm. As for Daniel, he tried to paint me as this deranged ex who couldn't move on, who made a scene for attention. But the thing about evidence is, it doesn't care about spin. Enough people saw those pages. Enough people heard what was said. His reputation took a hit. Work got weird for him. Turns out, when you humiliate your fiancé in front of 100 people, some of whom are business contacts, word gets around. He didn't get fired or anything dramatic like that, but those shiny opportunities he was always bragging about, they dried up. Last I heard, he left that company and moved to a different city. A fresh start, I guess. But here's the thing. I didn't do what I did to destroy his career. I did it because for the first time in our whole story, I chose myself. I think crashing someone's wedding is always the right move. No, honestly, I don't. It's messy. It hurts people who didn't do anything wrong, like the guests, the families, the vendors. But in this case, he created the mess the moment he decided to juggle two lives and walk one of us straight down an aisle built on lies. If you're wondering how I feel now, I feel lighter. It took a long time to untangle my self-worth from his choices. For months after, I questioned everything. Was I petty? Was I cruel? Did I overstep? But every time I picture the look on Melissa's face when she realized the truth, and the strength it took for her to say, "There's not going to be a wedding today," I know I did the right thing by her and by myself. I'm not sitting here years later wishing I'd spoken up. I did speak up, and even though it was painful, I can look back and say, I didn't stay silent to make a liar comfortable. Now, I'm in a much better place. I'm not in some fairy tale relationship or anything. I'm just me, healing, learning to trust again slowly, figuring out what I want, not what someone else tells me I should want. I don't regret exposing him, not for a second. If anything, I regret all the times I ignored my gut before that. So, let me ask you this. What would you have done in my place? Would you have stayed quiet and let her marry him? Or would you have walked down that aisle with the truth in your hands? Do you think he deserved that level of public karma? Or was it too far? If you've ever been cheated on, lied to, or gaslit into doubting your own reality, I want to hear your story. Drop your story in the comments. Your letter to karma might be the next one we read on Karma's letterbox.